I guess you guys must be feeling pretty awesome right now. Who feels awesome? Anyone? No one? Yeah, you feel pretty good? You should feel pretty good. You worked pretty hard to get here. So you should feel pretty awesome about the fact that you're here today. So I think we should give you guys a resounding applause. Life is very often about the problems that you manage to find. Sometimes those problems are personal, sometimes they're social, sometimes they're business. Very often they're actually all three. And I found that in my life I've been quite aware of quite a variety of problems around me, and I'm a fairly unreasonable fellow. What does this mean, to be an unreasonable man? All great progress, as you should well know, is made by unreasonable men and women. I think it's that when your back is up against the wall, or when anyone tells you that something's not possible, and you can see it's possible, that you go for it, and you gun for it, you don't stop. And for me, that's really what life is about the identification of the problems that you feel the most passionate about, that you are the one person ready to resolve, and going for it and solving that problem. And I've been lucky enough to have a few problems thrown at me in life, or be aware of them, that I was able to address in some form, fashion or another. I've not had what one would call a normal path or career path in any sort of way. I'd like you to think about something when I talk about careers. What's the difference between a job and a career? And most people can't really tell you, and I'll tell you what the difference is for me. A career is a path, and a job is, for me, very much a dead end, because a job tells you exactly what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, how much of it you're supposed to do. People who set their paths and their minds upon a career have a different mindset. It's a continual path. It doesn't stop. You're constantly challenging yourself, or being challenged in one way or another. And once again, it gets down to the core that when you're an unreasonable fellow, or an unreasonable lass, that you're going to chase after some unreasonable dream or something that someone has told you cannot be done, and you're going to resolve that problem in a way that no one else can. How did I get into that particular path? Well, very luckily, my brother is probably one of the best entrepreneurs that I've ever met. He's had 15 exits in the last 20 years. That's a pretty crazy success number. And when I was studying law in 1992 till 1994, 95, in University of KwaZulu-Natal, I came under his tutelage, and I started learning about computers. It was the really early days of computers. Sunny heard about the thing called Google. It was amazing. We used to stay up late in the LANs, like figuring out how this all worked and communicating with people that we had never met from across the internet, which was an outlandish idea in 1992, by the way. And we sat there, and I had a particular problem of my own, which was I needed to earn some extra money. So I started working for my brother, and then my brother sold his company, and I just finished my degree, and I decided I didn't want to study law anymore. Law had, for me, a little bit too much to do with what was reasonable, and constantly people talking about what the reasonable man would do, and I just didn't understand what this reasonable man person was, because what seemed reasonable in my mind didn't seem quite reasonable in other people's minds. So I went and started an IT company, and sold the IT company in around 1998 to a friend. And I went to go study graphic design as a second degree, and then I dropped out of graphic design in 2001. So as I said, it's not a very conventional speech. And the reason I dropped out of graphic design is I designed a mobile phone, and I looked at this thing, and I thought to myself with this unreasonable attitude, this is rubbish. This just is no good to anyone. And I looked at this phone I had made, and I thought to myself, there's got to be something wrong here. Something has gone wrong in the way people thought. So I tracked back the way people thought about the phone, and then I designed one and presented it the next day, and someone saw it and told an angel investor, and the angel investor said, Eran, drop out of graphic design tomorrow. And glad you guys didn't do this, by the way. And otherwise I wouldn't have anybody to tell the story to today. So allow me to keep my story by maintaining your graduation. And what happened was I got intrigued by this idea. I asked myself, why am I studying graphic design? This is the big question you've got to ask yourself. The why, the what, the how. Have a curious mind and a curious nature at all points, especially around your own motivations. And make sure that those motivations aren't just like looking in a mirror every day and preening yourself in the same way every single day and believing in some kind of an illusion. You've got to ask yourself these questions. Why am I doing this? Why did I study what I'm studying? Why am I moving to what I'm doing? Let's be unreasonable about it. And I looked at myself and I thought to myself, you know what? When someone offers you a seat on a rocket ship, you don't ask questions. You get on. And I quit the next day, and I sequestered myself for around 6 months, worked on 16 designs, showing a new form of mobile phone evolution in design and in marketing. And I sold it the next year to one of the largest mobile phone companies. And then I got headhunted by a Japanese corporate company, which seemed to like me. And I now suddenly had to set up a distribution chain in South Africa for a Japanese corporate company, which was a trip, because I'd never experienced what Japanese corporate life was like, and it was amazing. It was an incredible experience. And at the end of that year, my contract was over, and I decided not to renew, and I went to go sit on a beach for a year. It was pretty cool. And all I did was I drew. And I tried to get my artwork into a number of galleries in Durban. And I couldn't get in. And you know what happened is I had lost my unreasonable attitude that year. And I lost a lot of heart in myself. And I like to say that I sat to work down on my art and in some senses lost my heart. And I walked into Hurton Carter with these designs that I had done, these illustrations. And I couldn't leave. For an hour and a half, I got stuck in the lobby, and each creative director kept on calling another creative director or another creative person. And I walked out with 25,000 rand of commission work in my back pocket and tens of thousands of rands to follow. And I suddenly discovered that there's something wrong, that people weren't questioning the old structures. Why are people operating in agencies the way they are? Why are we building these big service-based machines? There must be a time when this doesn't seem relevant anymore, and we have to find and we have to reinvent ourselves in an unreasonable way. And I did that. I went and worked on a couple more designs that I was working on, and I traveled a little bit around the world. And I went to Asia, and I saw amazing designers who needed support. They were in the same problem they had the same problem that I had. They couldn't get to find a customer. And generally when they found the customer, they didn't know how to deal with the customer. So something kept on going in my mind, well, I have to solve this particular problem for the designers. And we first started by opening a couple of stores where we sold design products. And we found that the designers and people who produce products are not the same people. They didn't understand how to produce a quality product because they didn't have the experience. And very often they got taken for a ride, especially by manufacturers. So they would go to the cheapest manufacturer. And of course, the cheapest manufacturer is the first person to cut corners and take you for a ride. So we tried to find a way to help them. And the way we did this is we looked to a company called Threadless in America. And what Threadless did is that they ran regular design challenges where designers could submit amazing designs for t-shirts. And the designers would get a big prize, and they would ask their friends to essentially vote. It's like American Idols for design. So we decided, let's start this up. Let's start this up as some kind of building block in South Africa. And we went out and we started it, and Springly became quite successful. And we empowered quite a few artists. And I went off to America about the site Eran. I've only been the CEO since 2012. And I went off to America, and I came back from America last year, and I raised about $2 million for another company that I was involved in. I said, you know, that other company, I've just spent time in the States, and I just don't feel excited about it. But I really feel excited about Springleap. So I bought Springleap out from the rest of my partners, and we've had quite a skyrocketing success. And the reason is because I looked at the business model and I said, why do we need another Threadless? Why do we need another? And there are other competitors designed by humans in the phrase. All these people who are empowering designers to make money in an interesting way in the product space. And I said, you've got these brands, right? You've got these huge amount of brands out there, and they want to have what we call creative ideation. But they don't want to see one or two designs. They want to see 30, 40, 50. But designers don't get to pitch around that at all. They never get to those people. Because they either work in agencies or they don't know how to reach those particular clients. Those clients aren't easy to work with, and they generally don't want to work with one designer. They want to work with a team of people. In other words, an agency. So what do? So we decided to essentially set up Springleap as a middle path that would disrupt this disconnect between the designers, the brands, and the fans. And that's really what Spring Leap does right now. And we've been lucky enough to give 3 million rand to the designers to date. And we hope to take that to a new level. So what is this all about? I think my story is probably quite different from your story. But your story is only beginning. And what I'd like you to do is when you leave here today, is walk out with an unreasonable attitude. I don't think that you should be selling your ideas. I don't think that you should be selling what you believe you want to do in your life. You now have something that is not a framework. It is a foundation. It is a springboard for you to actually spring leap off. That's why we call it spring leap, spring leap. But don't think of your studies as a framework within which you are encapsulated for a certain path in a certain job. You are embarking now on your career, and you can be as unreasonable as you like about what the outcome will be. It's all up to you. And I wish you the best of luck.